Hey chickens, ever wonder what happens to that clay you throw in the chum bucket? Well, it gets recycled. First, we slake it down with water so it breaks down to a slip-like consistency. Then it gets loaded into the Soldner mixer. Once the mixer is halfway full of chum, you're going to need to turn on the airflow filtration system. This is a huge vacuum that sucks dust away. Make sure the clay mixer valve is open to minimize your silica dust exposure. Here's this wackadoo tube that you can set to the side when you dump bags of clay in so you don't breathe dust. We are going to add a full 50-pound bag of dry bee mix. Make sure you ask someone for help if you are unable to lift this heavy bag. And if you do lift it alone, lift with your legs. Do a deep squat to pick it up and dump the whole bag into the Soldner mixer. I tell kids, walk this big bag out to the dumpsters behind the art classroom, behind room 302, not woodworking, to throw it in the trash. Then you're going to turn on the mixer. On the back of the mixer is a red button and a green button. One turns it off, one turns it on. Poke around until you find the green one to turn it on. The perfect ratio for mixing recycled clay is a half a Soldner mixer, a wet slop, to one 50-pound bag of dry bee mix. If you've got the ratio perfect, it shouldn't stick to your hand. It shouldn't be all sticky and slippy and slimy. A good rule of thumb, literally, is to see if it sticks to your thumb. If it's all stuck to your thumb, then you need to add little bits of dry until it's the right mixture. So we're about halfway through the process of recycling now. When you pull this clay out of the Soldner mixer, it's full of air bubbles. It just gets very aerated in the mixing process. And in order to get these air bubbles out of the clay, you would have to wedge it a whole lot. Or you could save lots of time and energy by running it through the pug mill. But before we do that, we're going to refill the Soldner with wet chum. We do this because it keeps the mixer wet. If the mixer dries out, then we have to scrub the whole thing down. It's actually more work to clean it than to just refill it for the next batch. Everybody, this is our Peter Pugger, and inside Peter's belly you will find an auger machine. It has these metal blades. Be aware that those are in there so you don't accidentally hit them with your hands. That would not be good. We're going to need to chop down this giant mountain of clay and send it through the Peter Pug mill. So by loading in smaller chunks, closing and mixing the clay, will make more room to fill it completely. Make sure the switch is set to mix and push the green button. It'll only mix when the plunger is closed, for safety, of course. So keep adding and mixing until the entire chamber is full. When it's full, it's time to clean the seals so that we can get a good vacuum. So just scrape around the edges of the plunger so there's no clay stuck to the sides, and wash down the black gasket around the outer edge. So now Peter's full and ready to go. We want to make sure that the cap is on the end that's going to be extruding. We're going to mix and we're going to turn on the vacuum. Hooray! So switch the vacuum from off to on. And then we're going to need to gently turn the small black valve to close it in order to start sucking air out of the clay. Then you're going to watch the pressure valve climb, and we want it to be between 25 and 30 inches of mercury, which is a unit of measurement of pressure. So we need the pressure between 25 and 30. Let it mix with the pressure between 25 and 30 for a few minutes to suck as much air as possible out of the clay. Then we're going to tell it to stop mixing and switch it to pug. If you just switch straight to pug, it's going to start coming out. But I like to tell it to stop for a second there. And we are going to let it go. But this is very common. When you first start to let the thing extrude, it loses pressure. And if that happens, just tell it to stop and wait for the pressure to come back down. It's okay if a little clay comes out. We just really need to be pugging between 25 and 30. So be patient with her. She's got her little quirks. There's usually little air pockets that release some pressure. All right, we're back to 25 and 30. That only took a minute. Let's go. Time to chop up some clay. Start. When the clay first starts coming out of the pug mill, it can be kind of fast. So if it's coming out too fast, just hit the red button to tell it to stop. Red means stop and green means go. Let's pug some clay. Let's get this thing done. At the end of the load, the clay will start to come out extremely slowly. Then you'll know you're done. So hit the red button, slice off the end with the wire tool, put the cap on, turn the vacuum off, and release the pressure. And be sure to switch it from pug back to mix. Yeah, done. Thank you.